No, because of this globalization, different terms are used by the companies like cross-national borders, multinationals, global businesses, transnational companies, international firms. You might have heard or overcome these terms many a times. So this is a global integration responsiveness grid, which was stated by Bartlett and Ghoshal. Okay, they clustered these businesses based on two criteria. One is the global integration, the other one is the responsiveness grid, that is the local responsiveness for the businesses. Businesses that are highly globally integrated have the objective to reduce costs as much as possible by creating economies of scale through more standardized product offering worldwide. So every company generally tries to standardize the product. But here, one thing is important to standardize the product, that the market should be homogeneous. If it is homogeneous, then only standardized products will work. If the market is heterogeneous, consists of heterogeneous groups, then the standardization will not work. The company have to adapt some other modus operandi or some other strategies to penetrate into the desired markets or countries, we can say. Businesses that are highly locally responsive have as extra objective to adapt products or services to specific local needs. So in this case, the companies have to mold the products or the marketing mix totally to suit to the local needs of the people there in the foreign nation. It seems that the strategic options are mutually exclusive, but there are companies trying to be both globally integrated and locally responsive. Together, these two factors generate four types of strategies that internationally operating businesses can pursue. These are like multi-domestic strategy, global strategy, transnational strategy, and international strategies. So here we get this quadrant with the two criteria of global integration and local responsiveness. This is also known as Bartlett and Ghoshall's typology of multinational companies. Now, if you see the basically the drivers or the forces for global integration, also called industry globalization drivers. Now, here we can take the four things into consideration before entering into this quadrant. They are like market drivers, cost drivers, governmental drivers, and competitive drivers. These four are the forces or factors which for which the company goes into this global scenario or for global integration, integrated approach. The first one we say the market drivers are there. Just now I spoke of homogeneity of markets. If the market is homogeneous, the opportunities to sell standardized product increases. While if it is heterogeneous, standardized products will not work. Maybe they will have to mold according to the taste and preference of the localites. The next is cost drivers. From the cost perspective, different industries have different incentives to standardize. For example, like if the objective is economies of scale, in part production plant can be increased with standardized products that are exported to different country markets. Now, government drivers like uniform technical standards are necessary for product standardization in some countries. Liberal trade regulations with low tariff and non-tariff barriers to trade and common market regulations are drivers for globalization, making cross-border trade easier. Competitive drivers, it is one of the most important attribute. Competitive drivers in global competition enhance the need for globalization. Only companies that manage their worldwide operations as independent units can implement a coordinated strategy and use a competitive strategy. So these are the four drivers which push these companies to enter into the global markets, basically. Now, the global efficiency by a global integration, interconnecting the international activities of the MNC across all countries, is based upon this framework. Now, if you see the strategies one by one, now multi-domestic, if you see, it's low in integration and high in responsiveness. The companies with multi-domestic strategy have an aim to meet the needs and requirements of the localites. They would like to satisfy the local customers by maintaining their standards of taste and preference, by customizing and tailoring their products and services extensively. These multi-domestic firms often have a very decentralized and loosely coupled structure where subsidiaries worldwide are operating relatively autonomously and independent from the headquarters. Now, here you can take the example of Nestle. Now, here the basic strategy is to support the parent company, enter into foreign national markets with the emphasis on foreign activities, support the parent company by contributing to the incremental sales and revenue. Here, the focus is on shifting knowledge, new products, processes, or the technology of the parent company by transferring them in the foreign markets. Now, I have given you an example of Nestle, a small company from Switzerland. Okay, so here it operates into different nations. They have the decentralized structure because all the decisions or strategies cannot be centralized here. When you enter into the foreign nationals, the scenario is totally different. What decision you take with respect to either investments or marketing mix in a one country may not be applicable to the other nation. So that's why uh, we have here the decentralization structure. The next is the global strategy, where you have high integration but low responsiveness. Now, these global companies are the opposite of the multi domestic companies. They are exactly the reverse. They offer a standardized product worldwide and have the goal to maximize efficiencies in order to reduce costs as much as possible. These global companies are highly centralized and subsidiaries are often very much dependent on the headquarters. The main role is to implement the parent company's decisions and to act as pipelines of products and strategies here. This model is also known as hub and spoke model. Now, here you can take the example of companies like pharmaceuticals, Pfizer. It can be considered as a global company. Similarly, here, uh, where there is no need of localization apart from the language or promotional aspect is considered, there is no modification in the parent product. Now, if you see the categories, it may be the medical equipments, the pharmaceutical sector, overall, maybe equipments, maybe medicines, maybe any of the machines, any of the categories where you do not require molding of the product. Such category of products will come into this. Similarly, the technology driven products. In case of technology, when the company is offering the products with the technological base or technology driven base, there is less scope to localize the product. You can take an example of the electronic goods here. Unless and until, just like I gave you an example of a washing machine. Okay. So all such companies enter into this quadrant. They also focus on achieving the economies of scales. They are found in industries where forces are globally integrated, they are strong, and local responsiveness is low. Here, the price competition for these global industries is high. Thus, the dominant strategy need here is the global efficiency. MNCs attempt to rationalize their production by producing standardized products in concentrated production plants that fulfill a worldwide demand volume. So they may have plants in more than one part of the countries, but overall, the procedures, the methodology is standardized. Usually, the production plants are located in the home countries, but when it comes to gaining the economies of scale, they may think of shifting the production base. More of the emphasis in the foreign subsidiary markets is just to sell the products in its local market. Similarly, if you take R&D, that is research and development wing, and innovation cell, they are also concentrated in the home countries. They are not dispersed here. In this case of this global organizations with the global strategy. The next is the transnational strategy. The transnational company has characteristics of both the global and multi-domestic firm. Now here its aim is to maximize local responsiveness, but also to gain benefits from global integration. Even though this seems impossible, it is actually perfectly possible when taking the whole value chain into consideration. Transnational companies often try to create economies of scale more upstream in the value chain and be more flexible and locally adaptive in downstream activities such as marketing and sales. In terms of organization design, a transnational company is characterized by an integrated and interdependent network of subsidiaries all over the world. These subsidiaries have strong roles and act as centers of excellence. Due to efficient knowledge and expertise exchange between subsidiaries, the company in general is able to meet both strategic objectives. Now, for this, the current company should be very much strong financially as well as technically to balance both the things, that is global integration as well as local responsiveness. We can take an example of the company like Unilever, which fits into this quadrant. Now, here for this, the mantra is to become strong and responsive to the local needs while achieving the benefits of global integration. The resources and activities are geographically dispersed but specialized, leading to the economies of scale and flexibility. A certain level of product adaptation to local needs is combined with cross-border production processes that concentrates on production such that for specific common components in a single locations. Now with this leads to reciprocal and horizontal product flows, large flows of products, people, capital, and knowledge between subsidiaries are characteristics of these transnational organizations. This type of strategy is highly appreciable and ideal, but it is highly complex, a bit costly, and difficult to implement. The next is the international strategy. Low integration as well as low responsiveness. An international company has little need for local adaptation and global integration. So majority of value chain activities will be maintained at the headquarters. This strategy is also often referred to as a exporting strategy. Products are produced in the company's home country and sent to the customers all over the world. Subsidiaries, if any, are functioning in this case more likely like the local channels through which the products are bought and sold to the end customers. So, MNCs with an international strategy orientation will come into this categories here. Now, if you take Apple, for example, the greatest example of multinationals enterprise, as it tries to maximize cost advantage, it will manufacture their mobile phones anywhere where the cost is least through for investments in international context. So here, when it is a technology driven product and this product is standardized in terms of processes specifically. So here the company will try to take advantage in terms of cost. It will try to establish different manufacturing plants throughout the globe, as there is no question of localization. Similarly, if you take an example of a MNC like Walmart, okay, Walmart operates into 28 countries, including over 11,700 retail stores. So here it takes into consideration its strategies while entering into the local markets. It changes its strategies as compared to its headquarters. Similarly, if you take an example of Toyota, uh, network of auto parts in Southeast Asia, multinationals that develop integration as far as the international production, logistics, and marketing system is considered. Toyota in Japan is Japan's largest and world's second largest auto company. But two-thirds of Toyota's business is outside Japan. It established integration manufacturing system in North America, Europe, and Asia. They have plants in China, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Taiwan, Thailand to meet this global demand and achieve the economies of the scales. So here it depends upon the company which strategy it should follow, whether it can standardize the products, whether it wants to enter into foreign nation with the standardized products, and whether the people will accept the product. So any doubts as well as global integration responsiveness grid is considered? Hello? Hello?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So we move on to the next part, that is strategic management process. Now here, if you see, the first and foremost thing is establishment of strategic intent. Now it means defining the levels of strategic intent, which consist of establishing vision, designing mission, and setting objectives for the company. You already have studied this vision and mission statement in Fundamentals of Management. So, mission statement defines the company's business, its objectives, its approach to reach those objectives. While a vision statement describes the desired future position of the company. And further, this vision statement leads to the purpose, goals, values which are imbibed in the company. Now, if we take an example of Amazon, the mission statement is we strive to offer our customers the lowest possible prices at available selection and utmost convenience. So here the mission is concentrates on three aspects, that is offering products at low price, best selection criteria, that is scope is given for the customers to select the product, and at the almost convenience, utmost convenience, that is it is very convenient. So these three are the highlights when you read the mission statement of Amazon. If you enter the vision statement, to be earth's most customer centric company, where customers can find and discover anything they might want to buy online, that is what is the vision statement. Now vision statement reflects the long term goals, what exactly the company wants to do, and how to achieve this is reflected by the mission statement. Similarly, if you take an ICA's example, the vision statement is to create a better everyday life for many people. The mission statement is offer a wide range of well designed functional home furnishing products at prices so low that as many people as possible will be afford to afford them. That is, they are into the furniture business, furnishings business, and offer the products at the affordable prices. So, when the companies think of establishing vision or mission statements, what exactly the company is doing, into which field it is, that should get reflected. And based upon this, you frame the objectives. How to achieve this? That is, what is the objectives or goal setting for the companies. Maybe we want to be a number one leader. That can be an objective. But how to achieve? Okay, this becomes a part of the planning process. The next is formulation of strategies, performing environmental and organization appraisal, considering different types of strategies. Now, these different types of strategies we will be studying later on, or you might have studied in the strategic management subject, making strategies. So, here mapping of the strategies with respect to the different nations or environment of the country, preparing the strategic plans. Implementation of the strategies deals with putting the strategies into practice in actuality, depending upon the structures and the system of the organization, managing behavioral and functional implementations. Strategic evaluation and control, that is exercising control through recreating the strategies or controlling the modus operandi of the company. Now, basic, it starts from defining the purpose. What is the purpose? Why the company is here? Next thing, the environmental analysis comes into the part. Now, environmental analysis or environmental scanning plays a very vital or important role in strategic management process. It involves the gathering and analysis of intelligence on the business environment. This encompasses the external environment, the general and competitive forces, and the internal environment, resources, competitiveness, performance relative to the competitors, and stakeholder expectations, which come into this. Now, uh, this general business units, they have to monitor key macro environment forces like demographic, economic, technological, political, legal, and social, cultural. All these are, or we say generally, the pestle analysis, which has to be taken care of. Each and every nation differs as far as the economic criteria is considered. The purchasing power parity of each and every nation is different. It depends upon the GDP. There are certain trade barriers which the company has to adhere to the norms. Then economically, whether the product can enter into a particular nation, whether the people can afford that product. So this is about the economics. There are most an important thing, unless and until it is a standardized product or technology driven product. Okay, social and culture barrier plays a very important part here. When the companies think in the global scenario, one of the important barrier is social and cultural part. Next thing is the political factor, which has to be looked into by these multinational companies. Technology, of course, plays a very important role. The infrastructure facilities, development of the nation, the penetration of IT. Taking all these things into consideration, the company takes a decision to enter into a foreign nation. Now, the SWOT analysis also plays a very important role here. What are the company's strengths and weaknesses, as well as the opportunities and threats? They have to be analyzed. Now, what all are the attributes which are considered in this company's strengths and weakness analysis? Like, what's the company's reputation? What's the current market share of the company? Whether it's a leader, whether it's a follower, it's just enter the market. That is, whether it's a pioneer. How do the customer rate as far as the customer satisfaction is considered? Whether the customers are retained by the company. How does the company perform on the quality aspect of the products, service aspects of the product? What is the pricing strategy or its effectiveness? What about the innovation strategies of the company and the geographical coverage? These all comes into the strengths or weaknesses analysis. Similarly, from finance point of view, cost or availability of capital. How financially sound is the company? What about its cash flow and financial stability? In terms of manufacturing, whether the company has the facilities, whether it has the economies of scale, it has the capacity for expansion to meet the demand, growing demand, when you think into the global terms, whether it has the able, efficient, and dedicated workforce, whether it has the ability to produce the products on time, whether it has all the technical requirements for the manufacturing and the skills. From organization point of view, whether it has the capable leadership to lead the market or enter into the foreign nations. How is the entrepreneurial role? What is its orientation? Whether it's flexible, whether it's responsive or rigid. These are some of the attributes or the points where the company should take into consideration as far as analyzing the strengths and weaknesses of the company. Now, if you consider the opportunity and threat, how attractive would be the opportunity and the probability success. The company's success probability depends on whether its business trends not only match the key success requirements for operating in the target market, but also exceed those of its competitors. Mere competence does not constitute a competitive advantage. The best performing company will be the one that can generate the greatest customer value and sustain it over time. So, here, channelizing this opportunity is also very important. Suppose the company comes up with some idea, technical product for a technical product. What is the attractiveness of the market and what is the success probability? So, here, this should be analyzed properly, whether the idea is attractive enough and what is its success probability. Similarly, when it comes to environmental threat, it's a challenge posed by unfavorable trend or development that would lead, in the absence of defensive marketing action, to deterioration in sales or profit. Now, these threats are classified according to seriousness and probability of occurrence. How serious is the threat and what is the probability of its occurrence? On these two attributes, the threat matrix is analyzed. In case of an ideal business is high in major opportunities and low in major threats. A speculative business is high in both major opportunities as well as threats. A mature business is low in major opportunities and low in threats. And a troubled business is low in opportunities and high in threats. So the company should analyze where does it stand. Alternative strategic options may be identified. The options requires to be appraised in order that best can be selected. Now these strategies are the reflections of the objectives or the goals stated by the company. Strategy means the course of action to achieve the purpose of the organization. The implementation reflects the actions. How do we turn these plans into reality? So, actually, how we are going to meet the expectations or the desired framework. The specification of the operational activities and tasks required to enable strategies to be implemented. Similarly, when the actions are taken or the ongoing path is followed, whether we are on the right track, how we will know if we are getting there. That is the monitoring performance and progress in meeting these objectives. Now, companies do take corrective action. They have their own audits as necessary and reviewing these strategies periodically. This helps the company to move ahead, to always look back, analyze, and move forward. Now, here formulation parts consist of mission, objectives, strategies, or policies of the company. For a centralized organization, it would remain the same. But for the decentralized organizations, the strategies, the policies, they differ according to their needs in the local markets. The implementation of the strategy includes the programs, the budgets, or the procedures. Again, here the budget allocation differs from the headquarters. Under the corporate umbrella, the decisions would be taken, but the budget would be allocated to the individual strategic business unit. The decentralized offices in the particular countries would be treated as their strategic business units who would be responsible for functioning in this particular nation. And evaluation control is related to the performance of the businesses. So here again, in the corporate headquarters, the overall scenario is noted and the performance is observed. If in a certain nation the things are not working according to the plans, then again the strategies are reframed. That is the strategic control process. So this is about the strategic management process. Now the next part is globalization and strategic management. So when the companies think of entering into the foreign nations, it cannot think of moving like that only. It has to go for the research, analysis, and then come up with the strategy. Because when you enter the global market, the competition increases. There are more competitors. If you enter a foreign nation without research, then it can create blunders for the company. Now, global strategic management is concerned with managing a firm's relationship with the global business environment. Companies expand and carry out businesses throughout the globe. If businesses need to survive in global business, it has to have global strategic management for its survival. There will be challenges in businesses due to diverse environmental forces. In a global business, a company's strategy decisions in one country can be significantly affected by its competitive position in the other country. Strategic management planning becomes essential in today's era of cutthroat competition and environmental influences. Now, IT revolution or the penetration of IT has helped in globalizing as well as facilitating strategic management process. Now, global strategic management is the entire process of crafting a coherent, coordinated, integrated, and unified strategy. It sets the degree to which the firm globalizes its strategic behaviors in different countries through standardization of offerings, configuration and coordination of activities in different countries, and integration of competitive moves across countries. As we had discussed in the previous session also, many of the companies, instead of competition, can go for collaboration or coordination also. If you take into consideration the company like Coca-Cola, it has coordinated with many of the companies to penetrate into the market. Now here it depends upon the company's strategy right from entry mode, or how do you enter into a market right from that to product designing, offering different product choices, molding the product or standardizing the product according to the need of the local customers. If you consider the framework of this global strategic management, it is getting increasingly more competitive and challenging for business firms. Now, the firms should understand the forces acting upon these businesses. An understanding of the assumptions upon which global business is founded, like international theories, is a must. The strategic decisions would be with respect to the selection of the foreign markets, the strategic entry and operation in foreign markets, like whether you want to go for the franchising, whether you want to export the goods, whether you want to take up a joint venture with the local company. So all these decisions depends upon the scenario, or we can say upon the external environment. Now, the competitive strategies like positioning of the product poses a challenge. The production strategies, marketing strategies, HR strategies, and financing strategies also play a vital role. There is also risk involved in this global operations. Now, whether to have a single production base at the home market, or you can say with the parent company, and just the subsidiaries will have the role to sell the products worldwide, or maybe to enjoy the economies of the scale, shift the technology or technology transfer and manufacture products at the different global platforms. So here the company has to take these important decisions by looking into these forces which act upon the business. So unless and until you have the strategic management, you cannot move ahead with globalization. So we say that both of these are interlinked and interconnected. When you think of globalization, there should be strategic management, which plays a vital role. You cannot think of globalization without the support of this strategic move or strategic management process. Now, any doubts up till here? Hello.
No, ma'am.
Okay. Now, today we will stop here. See, students, do attend the sessions. You have MCQs. Okay. For MCQs, the fundamental or the concept clarity is very important. While writing the paper, it's much more a bit simpler for getting the marks from the getting the marks point of view, I'm saying. But for MCQs, you cannot beat around the bush. You have to be specific. So if you have the concept clarities, then only it will be possible for you to attempt the MCQs properly. If you don't have the concept clarity, if you beat around the bush, then the things become difficult, isn't it? So here, do attend the sessions. And the tenure for this semester is very less, okay, as you all might be aware. So better you start preparing for your 4th semester from now itself and attend the lectures, especially finance students. All of you have attended Viva. You might have your self evaluation done by now. Any feedback about your Vivas? Hello.
Yeah, good ma'am.
Good.
Yes.
Who's that?
Abhay this side.
अभय.
Yes ma'am.
अच्छा, आप गुड बोल रहे हैं?
हाँ जी मैम, मेरा एंड से सर.
यस.
मतलब जितना क्वेश्चन किया उन्होंने प्रोजेक्ट से रिलेटेड,
हाँ, उतना आपने आंसर दिया? सारे आंसर्स दिए अभय?
हाँ जी मैम.
ओके, आई वाज लिसनिंग वाइवा, आई वाज देयर इन वाइवा.
हाँ, तो आप बताओ अगर आपको लगता है मैंने कुछ.
मुझे ऐसा है, देखिए, पासिंग मार्क्स इज अ डिफरेंट थिंग अभय, and getting the knowledge base or fundamentals. Okay, suppose if you are specializing in marketing, okay, and if you don't know what is marketing, अगर आपको कंपनी में पूछा, कल इंटरव्यू को गए, मे बी फॉर हायर, व्हाट इज मार्केटिंग, डेफिनेशन तो कोई एक्सपेक्ट नहीं करता, बट एटलीस्ट व्हाट डू यू मीन बाय दैट, और फाइनेंस, व्हाट इज द मीनिंग ऑफ फाइनेंस, इतना तो भी आना चाहिए ना. रेशोस तो आने चाहिए फाइनेंस के स्टूडेंट्स को, बेसिक.
यस मैम.
अगर आप बोलते हैं कि कंपनी आप इवैल्यूएट कैसे करोगे, हाउ द कंपनी इज परफॉर्मिंग, तो आपको उसके मेजर्स तो आने चाहिए कि हाउ डू यू मेजर इट, द परफॉर्मेंस ऑफ द कंपनी इन फाइनेंशियल टर्म्स. So it's my observation is that some of the students, they did not even answer the basic, fundamental questions, जो मे बी बीकॉम के स्टूडेंट को भी आ सकते हैं. So at PG level, I think you should be more mature and you should basically understand the basic concepts. We don't speak of higher fundamentals, but some basic things at least the student should know. And in front of external, it becomes very pathetic for us that the students cannot answer. ठीक है, हड़बड़ा जाना या external है, घबराना, that is fine. But some things, कुछ long forms होते हैं, वो भी अगर आपको नहीं आते हैं external के सामने, which you are into that for maybe 1.5 साल से आप हो MBA में, and these are the repetitive terms which you come across, and if you cannot just explain those terms in front of external examiner, then it's not good, no Abhay?
Yes ma'am.
That is what is our observation. And in industry, nobody will ask you the basic definition, okay? They will just state that this is the problem, how you are going to solve, this is your responsibility, please take care of it, ऐसा ही वो बोलेंगे. But for that, if you don't have this technical parts, you are not sound with this, then there is a problem. So this is one of the thing which I wanted to share with you as far as the Viva is considered. So be clear with your fundamentals. जो theories है या fundamentals है, please try to again just brush up before you finish your 4th semester.
Yes ma'am.
Maybe you are working in any sector, okay? जो स्टूडेंट वही सेक्टर में काम कर रहा है, लेकिन उसको भी वो बेसिक लीव अबाउट प्रोजेक्ट, ओके, जनरलाइज्ड आई एम टेलिंग यू. मार्केट लीडर कौन है वो सेक्टर में, आपकी कंपनी जिसमें आप काम कर रहे हैं वो कौन सी पोजीशन पे है, वो तो आपको पता होना चाहिए ना, उतना तो भी, ओके? So these are the some of the things as far as Viva or other things is considered. Okay, today we'll stop here.
Ma'am, please check inbox.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello.
Karan.
Karan, yes.
Please check inbox, ma'am. I've sent a message.
Hello.
Yeah, ma'am. Am I audible? I've sent a message, ma'am.
Okay. Okay.
Chat box.
Syllabus you will get updated. Subject already I have mentioned, Karan.
Okay,
Hello.
ma'am.
आपके पास syllabus copy नहीं है?
सिलेबस कॉपी नहीं है मैम, सब्जेक्ट है एक्चुअली. सिलेबस कॉपी और पोर्शन कितना कितना अलॉन्ग विद द सीसीएस मैम.
CCs तो आपको दे देंगे हम. We will try to as early as possible. Okay, Karan?
Okay, ma'am. But syllabus isn't updated on website or anywhere, ma'am.
It is updated. Okay. Okay, I will look into that thing. Okay, Karan?
Yeah, surely, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, ठीक है चलो. Okay.
Yeah. Thank
We'll
you, ma'am.
stop today.
Yeah.